الرحيم. وعباد الرحمن الذين يمشون على الأرض هونا وإذا خاطبهم الجاهلون قالوا سلاما والذين يبيتون لربهم سجدا وقياما والذين يقولون ربنا اصرف عنا عذاب جهنم إن عذابها كان غراما إنها ساءت مستقرا ومقاما والذين إذا أنفقوا لم يسرفوا ولم يقتروا وكان بين ذلك قواما والذين لا يدعون مع الله إلها آخر ولا يقتلون النفس التي حرم الله إلا بالحق ولا يقتلون النفس التي حرم الله إلا بالحق ولا يزنون ومن يفعل ذلك يلقى أثاما صدق الله العلي العظيم.
Assalamu alaikum. In the name of God, most merciful, most compassionate, the servants of the compassionate are those who walk humbly upon the earth, and when the ignorant address them, they say peace, and who pass the night before their Lord, prostrating and standing in prayer, and who say, Our Lord, avert the punishment of hell from us. Truly its punishment is inescapable. What an evil dwelling place and station. And who, when they spend, are neither prodigal nor miserly, and between them is a just man, and who call not upon another God along with Allah, and slay not the soul that God has made inviolable, save by right, and who fornicate not, but whoever so does that shall meet requital. Sadaqallah.
Thank you very much, Hajj Samir and Sister Arzu, for the beautiful recitation and the translation of the Holy Quran. On behalf of the IECOC community, I would like to give a special thank you to our honorable guest speaker, Pastor John Shuck, for being with us here today. A lot of us have been looking forward to you coming here, so thank you for being with us on such an auspicious occasion. And we definitely look forward to hearing about your spiritual journey to visit Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Without any further delay, I would like to invite the next guest speaker. He is, a Muslim scholar, very well known to our community and across the country. He's come here many times, so please help me welcome Dr. Misbah to the podium with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله رب العالمين. نشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، ونشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله. For the sake of our guest, I say, as usual, Alhamdulillah, means thanks be to God Almighty for being here with you. And I bear witness that there is only one God, no partners, no associates. He is the creator, and everything else is his creatures. He sent so many messengers and prophets. We believe in all of them. Noah, Ibrahim, Moses, Jesus, peace upon all of them, and sealed by the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa. I have a chance to chat a little bit with our guest, and that's what really I said. I have nothing else to say except what I believe the truth is. He also has a chance to know how I come after 70 plus years to the truth. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. But since we are here all together for the celebration of the birthday of Imam Ali ibn Musa Rida alayhi salam, I have a gift for you from him. But I need you to be sincerely receiving his gift and act upon it, because it's a very precious gift and very simple one that you do every day, but today I like you to do it differently. He said, من لم يقدر على ما يكفر به ذنوبه. If you are as a sinner, you do not have what is needed for God to forgive you, then there is only one thing for you can do. من لم يقدر على ما يكفر به ذنوبه فليكثر من الصلاة على محمد وآله. No, this is the regular one. After this gift, you have to show that you receive it. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم والعن أعداءهم. Why this gift is a special gift? Because it is not from Imam Rida himself. He is telling us that Allah Almighty invite us to join Him and the rest of the angels to do just that. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Knowing that you are waiting for our dear Sayyid Mustafa to speak to you and our guest to show his experience, I will stop with this. Grasp it. If you do not have enough good deeds, and if you do not have money to be charitable, and if you don't have any kind of way to offer to be forgiven your sins, is enough for you to salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you very much, Dr. Misbah, for always sharing with us your beautiful words of wisdom, and thank you so much for that gift as well. One quick request that we have, there has been a request for a Fatiha before we move on for Ali Baha Abu Yusuf. So if you can please recite a quick Fatiha, that would be great. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Thank you very much. Next up, we will have a few words for the dear Imam of the center, so please help me welcome Dr. Sayyid Mustafa Qazwini to the podium with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. والصلاة والسلام على أنبياء الله جميعا وعلى سيدهم وخاتمهم حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين وأصحابه المنتجبين. السلام على رسول الله أمين الله على وحيه وعزائم أمره الخاتم لما سبق والفاتح لما استقبل والمهيمن على ذلك كله ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام على صاحب السكينة، السلام على المدفون في المدينة، السلام على المنصور المؤيد، السلام على أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين. We are celebrating the occasion of the birth of one of the heroes that God introduced to mankind to save the people, to guide the people, not only during his lifetime, but even after his departure from this lower life, from this temporary abode. Millions of people flock to his shrine every year. Now that I speak to you, his city, his shrine is hosting millions, literally millions of people who believe in the intercession of this man, in his integrity, in his blessings, in his bounties and his gifts. God gifted him with these bounties. People, Muslims and non-Muslims, some of them Christians, some of them Jews, some of them Arabs, some of them Persians, some of them Turks, some of them from other nationalities. They go to his shrine, they stand before his shrine to pay tribute to him, to ask him, because he's the agent of God. We believe in the intercession. We believe that God has agents on this earth. He chose them. Inna Allah astafa Adama wa Nuhan. He chose those agents from thousands of years ago, selected them from among the purest of his creation. Noah was one of them. Abraham was one of them. Moses was one of them. Jesus was one of them. Prophet Muhammad was one of them. Imam Ali is one of them. Fatima Zahra is one of them. Imam Hussein is one of them. And the eighth Imam, Al-Imam Ali ibn Musa al-Ridha, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi, is one of them too. These are agents of goodness and healing. So even after his departure from this life, temporary life, he's there with God. He's alive. This is what our book says in chapter 2. Those who gave and sacrificed their life for the sake of God, God will keep them alive with him. And they can reach out to us. This man was only 55 years old. He spent 52 years of them in Medina, where he was born, and the last years of his life, only 3 years in Khurasan, in Tus, the ancient name of that place. But these 3 years were very important, and it changed the history of Islam. He was summoned against his will. He didn't want to leave his hometown Medina, but the caliph of the time, the Ma'mun, the Abbasid caliph, coerced him to leave his birthplace and come all the way, travel hundreds of kilometers, to be the crown prince of the Caliphate at that time. Why? Because Al-Ma'mun wanted to appeal to the masses that we have no problem with the Prophet and his family. See, I'm appointing the most important man of the household of the Prophet as the crown prince to the regency. So he'll be the next caliph. We have no problem with them. But that was not true. Ma'mun, he didn't do this for the sake of God. He did this for the sake of himself, to save his seat, the seat of caliphate, because he knew that the hearts and the minds of the people are drawn towards the Prophet and his family, Ahlul Bayt, the family of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he forced the Imam to go there. And the Imam found it an opportunity for him to show the people the real side of Islam. Islam was hidden. Islam was distorted. Islam was hijacked by people who have thirst for power, for dominance, for authority. So at that time, it was an opportunity for the Imam, since Tus at that time, which is Mashhad today, was the capital of Islam, the seat of the Caliphate. And there were many people, many religions at that time. And the Ma'mun wanted to bring the Imam into dialogue and discussion and debate with the leaders of other faiths and other religions to embarrass the Imam, to defeat the Imam. So he would organize debates with the leadership of the Jewish community, with the leadership of the Christian community, with the leadership of the Zoroastrian community and other religions, even agnostics, even the atheists. And they will bombard the Imam with their questions, difficult questions. And the Imam, being inspired by the source of knowledge and source of wisdom, which is God, he will answer these questions one after the other, to the dismay of the Caliph. The Caliph was furious. But the Imam is connected to the source of wisdom, source of knowledge. We believe all the prophets that God sent and chose to the humanity and their successors, the Imams, they are divinely inspired. Their knowledge is a gift from God. Their wisdom, their intelligence is a gift from God. And the Imam succeeded in drawing the attention, not just the attention, the fascination, the admiration of the leader of the Jewish community, of the leader of the Christian community, of the leaders of other communities. He became the star, which led the Ma'mun to think of contemplating on putting an end to the life of this great man. And he poisoned him, and the Imam dies at the age of 55. Let me share with you one hadith, one narration of this Imam. On his way from Medina to Maru, Khurasan, he stopped in many cities, and he took the longest route from Medina. It was not straight, so from Medina, he went down to the south, he went into the Iraqi territories and then the Iranian territories, into Khuzestan, Ahwaz, and then north to Naysabur, and then he ended in Maru and Tus in Khurasan. Long journey. But the people of every city and every village, when they know that this hero is passing through their territories, they would come out, because he's the son. He's the son, someone who reminds them of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In his beauty, in his character, in his manners, he would remind the thirsty people. And this is, imagine, this is about 200 years, almost 190 years after Prophet Muhammad. People wanted to see his children, his offspring, his successors. So they would receive him with open arms until he reached the city of Naysabur. Today they call it Naysabur. The ancient name of it is Naysabur, and that city produced many scholars. Their last name is Naysaburi, on both the traditions, the Sunni tradition and the Shia tradition. So the Imam stood there to rest. While he was leaving the city of Naysabur, the scholars, men, women, young, old, they surrounded his caravan and they said, Yabna Rasulillah, O the son of Prophet Muhammad, please, we want you to tell us, to gift us, like just what Dr. Misbah did, to gift us with the sayings of your grandfather, that you know definitely that this saying came from your grandfather, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So the Imam said, سمعت أبي العبد الصالح موسى بن جعفر. I heard my father, the righteous servant, Musa, the son of Ja'far. His father, Imam al-Kadhim, you know him, he's buried in Baghdad. He was imprisoned for 11 years in an Iraqi jail by the caliph called Harun. He jailed his father 11 years until he died inside the jail. سمعت أبي العبد الصالح موسى بن جعفر, saying that I heard it from my father Ja'far ibn Muhammad al-Sadiq, saying that he heard it from his father Muhammad al-Baqir, said that I heard this hadith from my father Ali Zainul Abidin, from my father Imam Hussein, from my father Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib, from my grandfather. Ali says, I heard it from my teacher and mentor and cousin and a brother, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And the Prophet said, I heard this hadith from Gabriel. What is the hadith? The hadith states, كلمة لا إله إلا الله حصني فمن دخل حصني أمن من عذابي. This testimony, when you say there is no God in this universe, no boss, no leader, but God, and I surrender to God. This is my basin, is my bastion. And once you enter this bastion, this castle, this fortress, you're going to be protected against any damnation. Once you get hold of God and you testify that there is no Lord in this universe except God, you will get immunity and security. You will be safe. Then he walked few steps. Again he stopped. He said, بِشَرْطِهَا وَشُرُوطِهَا وَأَنَا مِنْ شُرُوطِهَا. Not just that sentence. The sentence has also following. That following is that you have to believe that Prophet Muhammad is the messenger of God. And also you have to believe in the concept of imamah. What is the concept of imamah? The Prophet did not leave his community in disarray. Before he left, he appointed successors. And those successors are the descendants of Prophet Muhammad. Those successors are the 12 Imams, beginning with Imam Ali alayhi salam and ending with the last Imam Al-Mahdi Al-Muntadhar Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Al-Sharif. My friends, we are celebrating the birthday of this Imam by having two honorable speakers. One of them is, you know him, Dr. Misbah. You know how much we love him. And you know why we love him. We don't do business together. We don't have a corporation together. We did not open gas station together. So there is no money between us. No monetary transaction, believe me. There is a spiritual transaction, spiritual connection. Because he changed the course of his life 180 degrees. Many of you know about his story. He sacrificed everything. He sacrificed his mosque, his community. Many of his friends, they abandoned him. Because he found the truth and he decided to follow the truth at any expense. He didn't care. This is how we should do. When you find the truth, you cannot bring any excuses. You can't say, this is my father, my mother, my community, my office, my business, my money. Because God is more important than anything else in this universe. And the one who's taking care of you is not your boss or your company or your friends. It is God. I'm proud of you, man. The second guest is a man who by accident discovered some Muslims, next door Muslims. In fact, I went to that community, the Islamic Center near your church, 15 years ago to cut the ribbon when they opened that pizza shop, you know, it was a pizza restaurant. So they turned that into an Islamic Center. I think it's 12, 15 years ago, Beaverton, Oregon. This man was inspired by Imam Hussein. You know, over centuries, you know what Imam Hussein did? It's amazing. Imam Hussein, when he died, he was completely crushed. No single bone in his body was safe. No single bone. Completely crushed. But look at what this crushed person, this person that was cut into pieces, If you get an opportunity to look inside the grave, you don't see a safe body there. You see a body that has been cut into pieces. But look what Imam Hussein did to the hearts and the minds of millions of people. Muslims, non-Muslims, Christians, Jews, Buddhists, Hindus, from all over the countries, all over the societies. They walk to pay tribute to Imam Hussein. Imam Hussein was not only for the Shias, neither only for the Muslims. Imam Hussein stood for God and to protect and save the humanity. To protect anyone who is oppressed, regardless of his or her faith or color or language or culture. He gave his life for the happiness, for the salvation of mankind. Not just the Arabs, not just the Muslims, not just people of that time, all times. And look what God rewarded him. Rewarded him with the love. A love that is embedded in our hearts. They can take anything from us. Anything. They can take our properties from us, our children from us, our money. In some countries like Bahrain, they take the citizenships away from people who were born there for they lived there for many centuries. They take the citizenship away from them just because they are Shias. But they cannot take the love of Ahlul Bayt and the love of Imam Hussein from our hearts. They can't do that. One of those who were inspired by Imam Hussein in this journey of Arba'in. And if you really want to know Imam Hussein well, you have to go on this Arba'in journey. We can go on other journeys too, other trips too, other seasons too, but this season is special. Something is special about this season. Something is special about this highway, 80 kilometers between Najaf, where his father is buried, and Karbala, where the son is buried. Something is special about that highway. You must walk to see for yourself and discover for yourself the inspiration, the beauty of this man and what he did to the hearts and minds of those people. Now we're going to watch this movie that was made by the Reverend Pastor John Shuck. And after we watch this documentary, which is for 30 minutes, it is entitled For the Love of Hussein, we would listen to him. And we thank him for flying today, leaving his family, his church, his community, to come and to discover a new community, new family. Those are your brothers and sisters here. We love you. God bless you for what you did. And you will see the reward of God and Imam Hussein in your life. You will see that. You will see the blessings flowing on you, your community, and your family. So if the movie is ready, let's watch it. And then immediately after that, Pastor John is going to address us, inshallah. And then we do the prayers, and then after that, the dinner, inshallah. Sallu ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad.
My way, and the way of my cameraman, Josh Housley, was paid by the Husseiniya Islamic Society of Sudan. We went for Arba'in, the largest annual peaceful gathering of humans in the world. Josh and I went with a tour group, Caravan 72, led by Mohammed Bey out of Los Angeles. We went along with about 50 other Shia pilgrims from the United States to visit shrines in Iraq, including the shrine of Imam Hussein, alayhi salam, the grandson of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and the shrine of Imam Hussein's half-brother Abbas in the holy city of Karbala. I was asked to go because I'm a Christian pastor and because I have interest in interfaith work and in particular justice issues. Large justice issues, war and peace issues such as the so-called war on terror, or perhaps more accurately, the war of terror that is being inflicted by the United States, Israel, and the Saudis in the Middle East. Also for me, this was a spiritual journey. I was moved by the story of Hussein and by those who follow him. I wanted to be inspired by his courage. You can read all about my quest for truth and my radical ideas, and I have them on my blog, radio show, and social media. But that isn't what this is about. This is about a movement. Arba'in is the largest annual peaceful human gathering in the world. Most people in America don't even know about it. I didn't until I was invited to attend earlier.
Living with Low Vision, want tips on shopping, cooking, and more? Click here to see the series on our YouTube channel.
This tour group is like any spiritual tour group to a holy place. In this case, Shia Muslims from all over the United States visit holy sites in Iraq, and some went on a continuation of the tour to Iran. We stayed in a hotel in Karbala for most of the time, and then in another hotel in Najaf. Josh and I spent our time with the tour group, participating in their programs, going to the sites, including Karbala, Najaf, Baghdad, and Samarra. And of course, going on a walk, a 50-mile walk over 2.5 days from Najaf to Karbala. We spent 2 nights on the road, one night at the Iranian Media Center and another at the Imam Hussein Oki. Visiting Iraq is not dangerous, even as the State Department says that Americans are not supposed to go to Iraq. I never felt safer. Josh and I walked around Karbala by ourselves. We did the 50-mile walk by ourselves. We were embraced. Many people took selfies with us. We were even the object of media attention when it was discovered that a Christian pastor from America was making a film about his trip to Arba'in. So, who is Hussein? And what is Arba'in? What I heard most often was that Hussein saved Islam. All Muslims know this. Both Sunni and Shia honor Hussein. Shortly after the death of the Prophet, a corrupt politician, Yazid, claimed control of Islam and demanded that the grandson of the Prophet, Hussein, bow to Yazid's authority. Hussein refused as a matter of conscience. On the plains of Karbala, Iraq, Yazid and his army of 30,000 surrounded Hussein and his family and his 72 companions, demanding Hussein's allegiance in exchange for his life. Hussein refused. A slaughter resulted. It was a battle of truth versus falsehood, good versus evil, right versus might. The incredible cruelty of Yazid and the transcendent bravery of Hussein is recounted every year with deep mourning and conviction. The women and children were taken prisoner and forced to walk to what is now modern-day Damascus, Syria. There, Hussein's sister, Zainab, bravely recounted the cruelty of Yazid and the bravery of Hussein and kept the truth alive. There's a saying that the movement ended with Imam Hussein, but continued to say. Yazid ordered the family to leave Damascus. On their way home to Medina, Zainab asked to return to Karbala to visit the site of the battle. They arrived on the 40th day after Ashura, the day of the battle. Arba'in means 40th. It's only been in the last few years since the fall of Saddam Hussein that millions of people have come to visit their imam.
Our gathering that you see of millions actually started after the demise of Saddam. Why? Because the Shias have been oppressed throughout centuries. They have been oppressed. And in the time of Saddam, if anyone was found walking towards the imam, they would be killed. And many scholars were killed through that. So the Shias, they saw an opportunity now of, now we are free. And now we are able to go to our imam free. So because of this, people, they take on that burden of, and that hardship of walking towards the imam because of that love, to show that now we are free. And now we can express that love towards the imam Hussein.
During the time of Saddam, the walk was illegal.
Actually, there was kind of focal uprising in Najaf back in 1977 when the government, the Abbas government, decided not to allow anyone to leave Najaf. But a group of your people, they challenged that and they ran toward Karbala. And Saddam Hussein brought big brigades and many parts of the Iraqi army to block the road, and they arrested thousands of people. Actually, myself, I was arrested in that event. And we spent many days in prison, and they killed some people up and tried to scare the people out. Because they consider that a real challenge to their authority. And this is when they started not to allow any people to walk. But that did not stop people to go walking. But it wasn't as such public event. People would sneak in the night and go walk, or people would go not walking through the main roads, that's what you witness, which is the main road that we covered up. They would go through the back doors, you know, within the rural area, so the government would not detect it.
But now people come from over 60 countries, some walking hundreds of miles.
This walk that's happening right now is a new phenomenon. And it didn't start by any planning. No one planned it. It's just that after years of subjugation of Saddam, people were not even allowed to mourn and cry. No one was allowed to come here to even show their love. So after years of subjugation, when freedom was found, it just happened that people, when rain came around, they just felt that, you know what, I'm just going to go. They left their homes and started walking. They didn't want to take a bus or anything, they just started walking. You know, I would to understand it. Like, for example, every crass example, if you like Forrest Gump starts running, you know, it's no, you just felt like it. You just feel like I want to do this. That's it. Passion came in and you just walked and you just came and you made yourself real, and then just grew from there. It grew. So it's something that is new and it's just naturally there. We don't know, and there's no one who made the plan that, okay, you know what, this is going to be a religion that we have to do this. It wasn't like that. It just came about, right? You know, and how it came about, the wisdom, what's the divine intervention in that, I don't know. No one knows yet. We're still trying to figure it out. But all we know is that we are enthralled in the passion of the Lord. That's it.
The walk to Arba'in is a time of mourning. The entire walk is constant prayer, poetry that recounts the sacrifice of Hussein for Islam and for all humanity is recited in Arabic, Urdu, Farsi, and many other languages. Often, this morning includes a rhythmic beating of the chest called mantra.
out there. So as this truth and falsehood, they come and meet. Falsehood on that day of Ashura, the army there of Ashura, when they killed Imam Hussein and they captured his family, they started beating drums of victory. And they proclaimed to the world that they won and Hussein has lost. And that was more hurtful for the family of Hussein than even his death. Not that they proclaimed victory, they beat the drums of victory. But divine decree would have it such that after that day, until the day of judgment, that the drums of victory are going to beat. And these are the drums of victory of Hussein. We are proclaiming to the world that truth has won. And we are making noise too, so the whole world can listen to that noise, that beat, and know that this is truth that will always win.
All along the road between Najaf and Karbala are mokibs. They provide rest, relaxation, food, and my favorite, Iraqi chai, strong and sweet. The people of Iraq are the hosts. They save up for the year to provide comfort and hospitality to those who are visiting Imam Hussein. On the first night, we stayed at the Iranian Media Center. 2 people gave up their cots for us. We spoke with an Iranian filmmaker. He told us the story of Ali Asghar, the 6-month child of Imam Hussein.
The 6-month boy was the son of Imam Hussein with the name of Ali Asghar. That in the battle of Ashura, or the day of Ashura, Imam Hussein told the enemies and put the Ali Asghar on his son like this, and told the enemies, he is 6 months, he is thirsty. If you have war with us, he is children. But what happened? Someone put the Ali Asghar net and killed him. In these days, you can see the same killing of like this story where? In Israel, in Yemen, in Syria, some years ago in Iraq, here, like near in this road. We can find something with these stories.
Justice. That is the main takeaway from all of this. The courage to stand with the oppressed against the powerful. To take a stand for truth. To take a stand for justice. To take a stand that requires sacrifice. That is the essence of Imam Hussein alayhi salam and true Islam and true humanity. On the walk between Najaf and Karbala are pillars every 50 meters. On each pillar is a poster of a martyr, a young man who lost his life fighting ISIS.
Around the pools, from pool number 1 all the way to pool 1,400, you will see pictures of martyrs we call shuhada. These are actually people who, regular people, not army trained, who actually rose up when they heard the verdict to go and defend. All of those pictures are innocent young kids who have left behind wives, have left behind kids, and they rose up so that they can go and defend the shrines of the Imam. They can defend their country, and so that's their day. They give their lives so that we are able today to be able to come, visit the Imam, be able to go to Karbala, be able to go to Samara. Shehani, he's like one of the bravest guys I have met. I met Shehani from 2013. He actually was one of my Arabic grammar teachers. Very brave. He always had a problem with Wahhabis because he's from an area in Baghdad where a lot of his family members have been killed through explosions. So he always had this I would say bravery of always going and fighting all these enemies. So when he had the opportunity to go and fight, he didn't look back. He told us in class that, you know what, I'm leaving tomorrow and I will not come back. And I remember seeing him a week, 3 days before he died. I saw him and subhanAllah, I saw him and we hugged and he said, I'm going back, and he never came back.
The 50-mile walk from Najaf to Karbala is not easy. It is wall-to-wall people in the desert heat. But walking does offer time for reflection. It was important to me to do the walk, even more so than to make a movie. This was a spiritual visit for me. I'm glad I made the choice to do the walk rather than focus on making a movie about the walk. It gave me the opportunity for self-reflection. What is my life about? Where do I stand? For whom do I speak? I met a man from India, and we walked together for about 90 minutes. I don't remember his name, but we talked about everything, from religion to politics to life. It was a breath of fresh air to be able to have conversations about things that matter with someone from the other side of the world. It was one of many gifts I received on this road to Karbala.
As we have been making this walk, continuously we've been thinking that, or looking around, that everyone is walking in one direction, which is towards Karbala, which is towards Imam Hussain. And I think it's very symbolic and metaphorical that even in our lives, in the duration that we are in this world, we all need to be walking in one direction, which is, in our belief, which is Najat, which is to be free of this world and be with Imam Hussain and all the Ahmed and all the prophets and be with God. And the way to do that is to have that singular focus in one direction towards the truth, towards even in the Quran, which says that you be on the right path, be on the righteous path. And this feels like that's what we are on. We are on this righteous path. Everyone is moving in that same direction. Everyone has this dedication. Everyone has this intense love for Imam Hussain, which is drawing them all. We saw young and old, and people who can't walk and they don't have shoes. Doesn't matter. They're all going there. There's some kind of love which is drawing them in.
On the second night, we stayed at the Imam Hussain Mosque. Again, 2 people gave up their mats for us. This is a huge mosque with sleeping accommodations for 4,500 people. Karbala, Iraq is not a wealthy city. The electricity goes off and on, the water is bottled, yet the city receives 15 million people during a 2-week period. It's as if the streets themselves expand.
You know, when the companion of Jesus came to him and he wanted to see a sign, and he said, show us a sign, and the sign was the table spread, the Last Supper we call it. And from a piece of bread, he was able to feed how many people? We see it here, the same thing. The same thing here. You will see that these people throughout the year don't have nothing. And even myself, I ask myself this question, how, when it comes to Arba'in, how can these people host 40 million, 30 million people? Like you said, the sewage is bad, the roads are bad, I mean, the infrastructure is bad, but you will see that in this walk, this 2 weeks or week of people coming in, you will see that everything is free. They give their houses, they give every little thing that they got, they give it. How? It's a miracle from God. It's something that is unexplainable, just like the table spread, you know, and I mean, this is something that buzzes my head every time, just thinking how many animals they kill, how many food they give, how many water they give, and you will see also after Arba'in, they go back to suffering. But when it comes to Arba'in, it's like you will think that everybody in Iraq is rich.
You don't make the visitation, the ziyarat, without an invitation. It is important that the imam invites you and that the imam grants permission. So all the visitors, all 15 million plus, are believed to have been invited. No visitor is unwelcome. No visitor is anything less than a blessed beloved of Allah. Of course you feed them. Of course you shelter them. Of course you care for their needs. You love them because they are on a divine mission, a sacred journey in which they will be blessed, be a blessing to the world, and you will have a part in that. Not because there's anything extra special about you, but because, inshallah, you do it for the love of Hussein alayhi salam. People of Iraq know this. Whether you are making the ziyarat or serving those to do, it is a divine interplay, an unchoreographed dance of love. But lest we get caught up in the romance of it, let us remember, who is this imam who invites visitors from all over the entire world? Imam Hussein, alayhi salam, refused to submit to the authority of Yazid, who he believed to be unjust. Hussein refused to allow Islam to be directed by tyrants with small minds and large greed. His brutal slaughter and the slaughter of his 72 companions on the plains of Karbala 1,400 years ago was a tragedy of cosmic significance. But it was something else. It is a victory. It is a tragedy that repeats itself all over the world, and it is a victory in the hearts of those who will not allow that tragedy to be the final word on the matter. The invitation to visit Hussein alayhi salam is the invitation from his own lips. As the battle ended and Hussein faced his own end, he called out to the world, to future generations, is there anyone who will help me? The response is from any in the world, regardless of religion or culture or language. Labbaik, Ya Hussein. Here I am, Hussein. Labbaik, Ya Hussein. Here I am, Hussein. It means so many things in a world that is soaked in the blood of injustice. It can mean that I will bear witness to what I think is true, what I think is just, what I think is good, even if it means I will have to give up my own life. I will fight the Yazids of the world on behalf of the poor, even if the odds are 30,000 to 72. Inshallah.
There's a phrase that we hear from the story as we grow up, and it's every day is Ashura and everyone is Karbala. And I think that is one of the most powerful reminders for how timeless the story actually is. It's reminding us that every day is Ashura, so Ashura being the day that Imam Hussein was killed. Every single day there are people losing their lives or facing oppression one way or another. And everyone is Karbala is happening everywhere in the world, even here in Portland, in the United States, in the developed countries, there's oppression happening everywhere and in every single generation.
I don't want to leave with a false impression. I was embraced, but that should not be mistaken for it's all good. It's not all good. The United States has rained destruction and death on Iraq. Millions in Iraq, Afghanistan, Yemen, Syria, Libya, Palestine have died and are still dying because of the United States and its misguided foreign policy and its support of Saudi Arabia and Israel. War drums continue to beat against Iran I came as an ambassador. I hope others will come. I hope American media will come. I hope other Christian pastors will come. Come and see what is happening. Talk with real people and be advocates of true peace. Peace that comes from justice.
Thank you very much, Pastor Shuck, again, on behalf of our community for producing such a powerful, inspiring documentary and disseminating the message and raising awareness of the movement of Imam Hussein. So, again, we show deep gratitude for that. One quick thing before we move on to our guest speaker. A few people have come up to us and they have donated. We do not have a formal fundraiser tonight. However, if you would like to donate any amount, please feel free to see me or Haj Samir Amiri. And, to conclude, the moment we've all been waiting for. So, Pastor Shuck, just a brief introduction, and please forgive me, my words will not do justice. Pastor Shuck began serving at the Southminster Presbyterian Church in Beaverton, Oregon in January 1st, 2015. Since his ordination in 1992, he has served congregations in Lowville, New York, Billings, Montana, and Elizabethton, Tennessee. He's a graduate of the University of Washington and Princeton Theological Seminary, and as you've seen, this past fall he took part in the 50-mile Arba'in walk from Najaf to Karbala and produced the documentary For the Love of Hussein. Without any further ado, please help me welcome Pastor John Shuck to the podium with the loudest salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Is this good? There we go. All right. So, how is it that a Presbyterian pastor goes to Iraq for Arba'in? I had no idea a year ago how my life would change. What I want to speak about this evening is, how is it that a Christian minister from Portland is speaking to a room full of Shias in Orange County? Salam alaikum. It really is an honor to be. I really can't believe it. I appreciate the hospitality taken to lunch today, the flying down here. It is really, thank you. Thank you. It is really an honor to be here. Sayyid Mustafa asked me to speak about how this trip came to be. He wanted me to talk. He said, you have 35 minutes, talk about what led to taking this trip. And that sounds like an easy question, but it's actually a very deep question, because it is asking of me to tell you who I am, to be vulnerable. Am I for real? And what I'm going to tell you is what I've seen and what I've heard. And I'm obviously speaking for myself. I do not speak obviously for this center. No one in this center knows what I'm going to say. I don't speak for my congregation. I don't speak for anyone except for me. This is me and me alone. And I tell my congregation all the time, you will disagree with me at times, and that's okay. I think it's important to speak from the heart and listen from the heart. The other thing I tell my congregation is this. I'm 57 years old. My granddaughter, Pippa, is 2. My overriding concern is, what will the world be like when Pippa is 57? And what am I doing about that now? And of course, not just my granddaughter, Pippa, but all 2-year-olds all around the world. What are we leaving? What are we doing and saying now so there will be a world for all of our babies? A world that is sustainable, a world that is just, a world that is peaceful. So why did I touch the shrine of Imam Hussein alayhi salam? Hussein is needed in this country. I love this country. I was born here. My ancestry goes back many generations on this soil. But we have some big problems. And I have a critique, and it's related to why I went. I'll talk about what led me to take the walk from Najaf to Karbala for Arba'een, and what that walk has meant to me, and why I think Imam Hussein can mean to all of us. I've been blessed, or perhaps cursed, with the proclivity to speak about things that are not popular. I don't speak about them because they're not popular. I speak about them because I think they're important and true. And sometimes the most important things about which we need to speak are not popular, because there are powers at work in the world that do not wish to have some things known. And these things become taboo and thus unpopular. And the media are the arbiter of these things. We trust the media to give us permission to talk about things. And if the media are not talking about things, then they're not topics for discussion. So if you do not read it in the New York Times, it's not worth reading, we are programmed to think. So I've come to learn that the New York Times does not tell us certain things. I'm not speaking only of the Times, but I'm using it as a cipher for all of the mainstream military, industrial, corporate-owned media that do not allow certain topics to be brought for public discussion. Australian author Caitlin Johnstone recently wrote that Americans are the most propagandized people on planet Earth. A handful of corporations own the vast majority of all media outlets in the United States. They work 24/7 to sell us on war, and we have been sold. The United States has 800 military bases around the world in virtually every country. The United States spends $1 trillion each year on its military endeavors. The United States, with 5% of the world's population, consumes 25% of the world's oil. That's why we have to do numbers 1 and 2. And the United States supports Israel's expansionism and genocide, and our Congress is beholden to Israel's interests through AIPAC and other Israeli-American lobby groups. Since September 11th, 2001, the United States has been in continuous war with the world. I'm not going to go on and on about this, but I just want to say this, that this is part of what has driven me on my own spiritual journey. When I point out these facts that are easily verifiable and are common knowledge among most people who are aware, nonetheless, many Americans become angry. They don't want to hear this because it implies that America itself is not exceptional. And we have a belief as Americans, we believe that America is exceptional, exceptionally good, the city on the hill, the light to all the nations. It's deeply rooted in our mythology. And because we believe this, the policies and the goals of the military, industrial, financial, intelligence, media complex are also exceptional. We go to war because it's good for democracy or whatever. We're programmed to think this way. And we believe that the wars in which we've sent women and men to fight and die were all necessary to maintain freedom and justice. And even among those who realize that the wars left devastation, Americans still support the next one. Why is that? And even though most Americans are against war, because actually Americans, the people, really are good, eventually they happen, and they're supported by Americans. And it's due to the propaganda of the media. And when I say media, I mean everything, from television programming to Hollywood movies to news, from both the corporate media giants and the cable stations, the media outlets, including social media, all of that. Because Americans are basically good people, we have to be tricked into war. So in 2010, I became a member of a group called Religious Leaders for 9/11 Truth, because I saw that Muslims were being blamed for a crime that they did not commit. And I wrote on the thing you sign, I think it's critically important for religious leaders to demand a complete and thorough investigation surrounding the events of 9/11. It is still used as a pretext for continued so-called wars on terror and the demonization of Muslim people. And I'm not going to go into all of that, I could. And I'm going to let you have that. But I'm going to say one person who I deeply admire, and he lives not far from here. He's a Christian theologian, a process theologian, taught at Claremont School of Theology. Lives in Santa Barbara. His name is David Ray Griffin. Wrote a number of books, but in 2004, he started writing about 9/11, and he's written about 12 books on this topic. His last one is the 9/11 Consensus Panel, basically showing, which is pretty obvious when anybody actually goes into this, that the official story isn't true. And it is, talking about 9/11 is like taking your head and banging it against a tank. My Presbyterian colleagues won't talk about it. Progressive Christian academics won't talk about it. They won't even give David Ray Griffin a hearing. But anyone who looks at it can see, you just look at architects and engineers for 9/11 Truth, but you can't even get people to look at it. So, this is all to lead up to this one point. One day I had coffee, and I broached the topic of 9/11 to a few of my friends at the Islamic Center in Portland. And I tell you, it was refreshing not to be ridiculed and shut down. They knew. That following month, in December 2017, I had a gathering we had in my church to celebrate the birthdays of Prophets Muhammad and Jesus, peace be upon them both. One of the members of the Islamic Center gave me a flyer about an upcoming conference that was called the U.S.-Saudi Coalition Bringing Peace or War. And I announced the event to my church, and I decided to interview a few of the speakers on my radio show, which I did. The conference was organized by a group called Roots of Conflict that saw as its role interfaith work that wanted to go deep into issues, not only just of religion, but also of geopolitics, the things that are very important for all of us. And it was through this event that I met a woman named Zahra Abadi, whose sister Tess attended the Islamic Center of Portland at the time. And Zahra was in the process of organizing the Husseiniya Society of Islamic Society of Seattle. And so she asked me to moderate this conference. And it was at this conference in Portland that I met Kevin Barrett, Jim Fetzer, Scott Bennett, Muhammad Al-Nimr, Catherine Shakdam, and others. Truth tellers all. And truth tellers who've paid a price for speaking out. And this Roots of Conflict conference in Portland about the U.S.-Saudi coalition and the war in Yemen gave me hope that those who spoke had credibility because they spoke against the deceptions and falsehoods to the extent that they were vilified, lost careers in some cases. They spoke in the spirit of Hussein, and that conference did something for me. It said to me that truth-seeking about controversial political topics can happen and must happen. We shouldn't be afraid of it. Even good can come of it. Because Shias put this on, it told me that Shias knew a lot of truth that the world needs to know, and I should get to know them. It told me that European American Christian pastors like me with privilege need to speak out. And finally, this conference introduced me to Hussein. And after the conference, it was in the course of an email exchange with Zahra and her sister, commenting on the speakers that this is really kind of did follow in the spirit of Hussein, speaking truth to power, even at risk. And so Zahra invited me to another conference in Seattle for Hussein Day in April 2018 and invited me then to attend Arba'in. She provided a scholarship for me and for my cameraman. She said she was looking for people to send to Arba'in who were searching for what is true. And speaking of what is true, let's talk about Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Salawat. To me, Hussein is the model of truth, courage, justice, love, sacrifice for the oppressed against tyranny, anywhere and everywhere. We need Hussein more than ever in these United States. And I say that as a Christian. I'm a Christian who loves Hussein. I want Christian scholars to engage with Shia scholars about Hussein and Jesus. Get this conversation started. I didn't know anything about Hussein. And when I began to read a little bit about him, I realized that he is, as I put it at the time, the real thing. I read about Arba'in and became excited about going. And I should say something about Jesus here. I've been a student of the historical Jesus. Now, that's not necessarily the Jesus of Christian creed, but the search for the historical Jesus is peeling away the myth from the man, the centuries of layers of accretion, and discovering that Jesus was a prophet who resisted the military machine of his own day. It's interesting that Western scholars searching for the historical Jesus found a Jesus that has much in common, as I see it anyway, with the Jesus that is revealed in the Quran and the traditions of the Ahlul Bayt. I saw a reflection of my own, of Jesus, in Hussein. So these past 2 to 3 years, all this is to say, has been a growing spiritual awareness for me. As I say, even though I personally had researched 9/11 and all of the other things that the military-industrial complex has done for some time, I had spoken about it very little. Didn't even have these people on my radio show prior to the fall of 2017. And I knew that to do so would result in ridicule and anger, opposition, and it has. But it has also led to great freedom, freedom of the soul. It's scary, especially as I became more aware of the involvement of Israel and its methods in silencing people. For example, I tried to have Kevin Barrett after the conference on my radio show, and was met with a fierce smear campaign against Dr. Barrett, including all kinds of accusations that were not true. The radio station was harassed with phone calls, social media attacks. The station management caved in and wouldn't allow Kevin Barrett to be on my radio show. And that experience caused me to cross a threshold. I got a little taste of what we are up against. And I decided it was necessary for me to be public about what I really think is going on in the world. So I started to write more about militarism and war and the trinity of terrorists in the Middle East, Israel, Saudis, and the United States on my blog and my social media. And so Arba'in meant for me a spiritual pilgrimage. I went with an intent to report back what I had seen in the documentary that you just saw and that Josh and I produced. And I should say something about Josh Townsley, a marvelous young man. He packed all his camera equipment, 30 pounds of that on his back the whole way. He's a good man. And he did this filming for me and helped me with this editing. But I wanted to connect spiritually, because to do the work of truth-telling, even hesitantly, requires something big. Courage. I'm not a courageous person. I'm actually a very nervous kind of person. Socially anxious, awkward. I'm not a warrior, I'm a worrier. But these last couple of years have made me more spiritually aware than I have been in the past. And so Arba'in ended up being for me, it fell into place, but it fell into place of needing to find a spiritual direction, a moral compass here, and to connect with people who have been vilified by the media again and again, to do whatever part I could to try to set the record straight. So that's how I got to go to Arba'in. That's the backstory. It's probably more than Sayyid Mustafa really asked for. But the story is this. It's a story of deep concern for the world and for my country. And it started because I broached a controversial topic with my Shia friends, and they embraced me for doing so. And they said, we can talk about that. To the visit itself, when Josh, my cameraman, and I went, we participated in the tour led by Maulana Beg. You saw in the video. Sister Zara thought that the tour would be good. He could get us into the checkpoints with our cameras and whatnot. And I sat at Maulana Beg's feet and listened to his sermons. He talked every day. Each sermon would end with tears, with crying and matam. And I didn't feel this emotion at first. One day we learned about Abbas, another day we learned about Zainab, another day Ali Asghar, and so forth. One day we learned about the Christian who came and fought alongside Hussein at the battle. And each time the sermon would end, people would cry. And I didn't feel any tears until the end of the 2 weeks. It was on the day of Arba'in itself, after the walk, that it all caught up with me emotionally. For 2 weeks, I saw people crying all the time. Now, people weren't crying all the time, but for 2 weeks, you saw people crying. So why are they crying? Well, they're crying for Hussein. They're crying for his companions, the Ahlul Bayt, but but I also thought they're also crying for the injustice of this world too. Well, the crying didn't hit me until the last sermon by Maulana Beg. And this is not in the film, but he was telling the story of the people who were late to the battle, who didn't make it in time, who too late to help. And Maulana Beg says, that's who we are. We're too late. We missed it. We cannot go help Hussein in the battle. All we can do now is to say what happened, to bear witness to what happened, to report back truth. And that just hit me and I broke down. Maybe that's what I can do. I'm too late for most everything to be much help, but I can bear witness. I can say what I think is true if I have the courage of Hussein in my heart, inshallah. And that's what all of this meant to me. touching the shrine, going on the walk, visiting the other shrines of the Imams and the Ahlul Bayt, experiencing the whole of the event. This city, Karbala, beaten down, yet so proud. Like a mother, so abused, so filled with pain, yet arms wide open, welcoming all of her children from all over the world. Myself being welcomed, hugged, fed, I experienced that. Being told again and again that Hussein is for everyone, even you. You white American, you're okay. As a Christian, Hussein's for you too. The pictures of the young martyrs on each of the poles between Najaf and Karbala, killed defending their shrines in their home against Daesh. Who is this Daesh anyway? Who sponsors these mercenaries? I think we know. This movement, this wave, this river of beautiful people, this awakening, people rising up, children, old women, old men, young women, young men, people from all over the world, some walking hundreds of kilometers, some without any shoes, people working all day, all night to feed people. The constant phrase shouted out, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Labek, Ya Hussein. The spontaneity of it is a divine response to the organized violence that has caused so much suffering across the Middle East. Organized by lies and propaganda of powers that have invaded Iraq, destroyed so much of it, yet Arba'in responds with generosity. It is hospitality. It is graciousness. It is truth. It is goodness. It is love. And that's what gave me hope and gives me hope. There's no stopping this. What can I say about this experience? What did I discover? Arba'in is the symbol of the path toward redemption of our world. Arba'in is the symbol of the path of salvation for our world. Who will save us? Who will save our world? Who will lead us to salvation? To a world our babies can inhabit when they're our age. What I learned is it certainly won't be me. I won't lead it. The rich are not going to lead this. Empires will not lead this. Militaries won't lead this. Governments won't. It will be led by those the so-called powers of this world ignore, suppress, and distort. It will be led by the people rising up and following the love of Hussein. The young woman in the video talked about every day as Ashura and every place as Karbala. It doesn't mean at all to say less of actual Ashura and Karbala, but as to say it's perhaps a mirror. That every day we have the commitment. Every day there is suffering somewhere. And wherever we are, we're called to take notice. Take notice of our own moral compass. Where is it pointed? Reset it, recommit to it. I discovered that my understanding of Jesus is not that unlike that of Hussein. They're on the same team, along with Musa and Abraham and all of the prophets and all of the Imams. They have the same goals. They live in the same love, can't we all? Jews, Christians, Muslims. And finally, this experience for me was joy. The story of Karbala is a tragedy. Yes, mourning. But that lament, it clears the soul. Mourning leads to joy. Maulana Beg said, Karbala, Arba'in is a gift wrapped in grief. Mourning leads, as it always must, to joy. The ultimate victor, not Yazid. We just talked at lunch today. There's no, Arba'in for him and his minions who make the world suffer. The ultimate victor is Hussein, who lives within each of us and who summons the entire world to love. The people of Iraq have given me a glimpse of what that love looks like, and for that I'm eternally grateful. I'm not sure what's next. I want to continue to build relationships with family, a new family here of Shias. Learn more about the Shia intellectual tradition and perhaps communicate to Christians how Hussein and Jesus might be a bridge in regards to enacting justice and dismantling this war machine. I know it is more dangerous for Shias in America, especially people of color, to speak out against this military-industrial complex and controversial issues. I have a privilege being white, and I feel the need to use that privilege to break taboos. I think there are many more people who think like I do, but who need people to trailblaze and give permission. And I believe it's critical for all of us to speak about the roots of our conflicts so that we might make positive change. In the documentary, Maulana Beg said that this walk was spontaneous. We don't know what it means yet. Some kind of divine movement, but we don't know. We just trust it at this point. I believe that the spirit of Hussein is now speaking to the whole world. It's a movement of truth and toward justice. I'm going to close with a short piece that I wrote just last couple of weeks ago for my local paper. I wrote this just after we narrowly had that Trump almost bombed Iran, pulled out at the last minute, thankfully. It's the Beaverton Resource Guide. I was supposed to write something uplifting in 250 words. So I thought I'd write about my trip to Arba'in. So I'll share with you this with you because this is the kind of thing I think that needs to be said whenever we have the opportunity to say it. This is what I wrote. Last October, I had the honor of participating in the largest annual peaceful human gathering in the world. It's called Arba'in. During a 2-week period, 15 million people, some estimates are as high as 20 to 30 million, visit the shrine of Imam Hussein, the grandson of the Prophet Muhammad, in Karbala, Iraq. People walk from Najaf to Karbala, a 50-mile walk, have all their needs met. Food, water, a place to sleep at night, anything they might need to make a successful visit. I came as a Christian pastor from America to show my respect for Hussein and for his sacrifice on behalf of justice and truth. I made a film about the trip. You can find it on YouTube, called For Love of Hussein. I walked the 50 miles over the 2.5 days and touched the shrine of Hussein. I participated in the rituals of mourning and made friends with people from Iraq, Iran, India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Saudi Arabia, just a few of over the 60 nations represented. These faithful Muslims, heeding the call of Hussein to stand with the oppressed of the world, opened my mind and my heart. What I came away with was a renewed sense of hope for humankind. When a Christian pastor from America is showered with love and hospitality from Shia Muslims in Iraq and Iran, you can't help but be hopeful. I wish all Americans could share this experience of unity. A just peace is coming for all of earth. People, get ready. Inshallah. Wa alaikum assalam.